American women are coming out in support of Lindsay Clancy, and this therapist says the most disgusting things. Let's get into it. Before we go further, my name is Casey. I'm a husband, father, and yes, a therapist. And it didn't take the Lindsay Clancy case for me to be ashamed of my profession yet again. But we will take the opportunity to examine what this other therapist says. However, if you would like to support somebody who's trying to expose and blow the whistle on all of the corruption, exploitation, patient brokering, and other fraud in my industry, please like, share, subscribe. I'd love your support. You guys all probably know enough about the Lindsay Clancy case, much more than I do, because I refuse basically to look at it, other than we know something bad happened to her children while she was in postpartum, and her case has been all over the news and apparently all over TikTok, probably somewhere in the book talk threads. She has managed to raise in a GoFundMe $835,000. However, I want to take a look at this young therapist, or this woman who's a therapist, named Strong Therapy Jess on X. She has nearly 600,000 followers, which tells me that based on what I know about my field, my industry, I should easily be able to get the same type of pub that this woman is getting. But I want to examine what she said and why it is a precisely perfect exemplar to why you should be very cautious about seeking therapy. Let's watch a little bit about her expose, or her thoughts on the Lindsay Clancy situation.
The Lindsay Clancy trial is going to be one of the most significant trials of your lifetime. We're all experiencing something completely unprecedented. Never before have we seen so many mothers and women rally behind somebody who confessed to killing her 3 children.
Okay, so there's a reason why you haven't had women rallying behind this type of person in the past, and that is because this is an absolutely disgusting thing to do. Now, regardless of the feelings or the postpartum, nuance that you're going through, and many of the deep difficulties that come along with having a child, and yes, even some of the neurochemical developments that happen after having a baby, we would have not typically supported this type of woman in the past, because no one would have had the guts to stand up and support someone that is so obviously not worth celebrating and not worth supporting in the past. This woman would have been a pariah and would have had no quarter at any thread of the media or at any part of public support in the past.
And it is not because we cannot hold women accountable. Many of us see ourselves in Lindsay.
Old Strong Therapy Jess wouldn't be willing to hold any women accountable if they weren't simply right-wingers doing right-wing things. Find me the time that this woman has held anyone from the political center or left accountable for anything, including her clients, and I will give you $5.
Many of us know that we could have been only one step away from doing some of those horrific things.
She says that she is one step away from doing those horrific things, or that she can understand what it must feel like to be one step away from doing those horrific things. And I think that there are a great many women within the Lindsay Clancy support circles that have filmed videos very explicitly saying that they have had similar thoughts as this. And I don't want to blame everything on SSRIs, but doesn't this seem like the type of things that happen to you after you take a medication? And I know there's been much controversy in the Lindsay Clancy situation, where many people have felt that she has been obfuscating the responsibility that's inherent to this type of act by saying that it was medication-induced psychosis in one way or another. And I'm going to tap Dr. Josef Witt Doerring to see what he has to say about this, as he's an expert from Taper Clinic about these types of medications, what they can do to you. However, whether or not you try to deflect responsibility onto the medicines, I just simply cannot believe that it's adaptive or some way instinctive for women to feel and behave in this way. And especially so many of them that are recording themselves and admitting that they've been feeling this way, that's concerning.
Because we experienced significant mental health issues after one of our children was born. And many of us know just how dark some of those thoughts get.
Okay, so an admission here that no one knows, or she knows exactly how dark these things can get. I would hazard a guess that this person needs actually to be the one who's in the psychoanalytic chair rather than the one who's doing the psychoanalysis, because if you know precisely how dark these thoughts get, and then you're willing to admit that as a therapist, you need help. And I'm not even sure that the type of therapy you would be willing to get would be helpful for you. That's part of what's wrong with my industry. But you may need a child services case called to your house if you are exactly sure how dark Lindsay Clancy's mind got and you're a mother yourself.
So yeah, this is going to be one of the most significant trials of your lifetime.
Of course, this is going to be one of the more significant trials of our lifetime, but only in that it is exposing just how bad, not only that the SSRI epidemic has become, but also how bad the leftist zeitgeist towards women has become. The ways that women have rallied around each other and used, their own worst behavior as really a model for who they want to uplift in society. Now, granted, this is nowhere near all women, but there is a significant amount, enough to raise $850,000 very nearly in a GoFundMe, that are willing to step out and say that they support someone like this simply because they can turn the victimhood status onto themselves, because we have incentivized victimhood. The more that you uplift and celebrate and just you give all of your, the more that we give societal clout to people who are victims, the more that you will incentivize victim behavior. And if we can turn Lindsay Clancy into a victim in this giant cohort of cohesive women, if they can turn her into a victim and turn the dynamic, the power dynamic onto her husband and make it seem as if he were the evil one, then they can rally behind her. And that is an obviously large part of the TikTok, the book talk moms out here, and that is frightening. My wife has had 5 pregnancies. One of our pregnancies was stillborn at 24 weeks. And even despite how difficult that experience was, because of the amount of social support, the amount of church individuals who supported us along with our families, we did not turn into psychotic monsters. And that means, in my opinion, that a great many of these women who would admit to suffering these types of feelings probably do need the type of institutions that used to be inherent and helpful to young women when they were having pregnancies, when they were having babies. Young ladies need help. Young ladies need support. And if you were able to process, although I believe Lindsay Clancy was in therapy, but if you are able to have the practical support of church hands and feet in the midst of a crisis like this, that probably would have aided her feelings, her emotions. Emotion is meant to set you into motion, and when you defer that, frequently you sort of fill up a bucket full, and then your anger will spill over in ways that you wouldn't have otherwise seen coming. And I'm not saying that this is what happened exactly. I'm just an expert of 13 years. But when you deflect and defer so many times, when you don't act, when your brain and body is telling you to act, and when you just try to obfuscate those kinds of neurochemicals, you will end up overflowing in other areas. And it is up to us to ask yourself, when you're being prompted or compelled in these ways, is there something that I should be doing? Is there something that I need to do? Even if it's asking for breathing room from your husband. You know, I don't want to demonize this guy. I think he was, from all accounts, he was providing for his family. At least he did that well enough. And now he's suffered this horrible loss. I'm just trying and searching really hard to find explanations. Let's tap Dr. Josef Witt Doerring, one of the experts behind the Taper Clinic, to see what he thought about this circumstance.
And it's fairly rare, but quite frequently I have people come in and they're exposed to an SSRI for a few days, and it causes a whole host of problems. They can have visual problems, sometimes they get ringing in their ears, sometimes they can have confusion and mood instability to nervous system and psychiatric disorders. They observed ataxia, so that's unsteadiness walking, coma, convulsions, decreased alertness, lethargy, syncope. For psychiatric disorders, there was aggression, bruxism, which is teeth grinding, confusional state, euphoric mood, and hallucinations. And so these are all things that the manufacturer found during the clinical trials. And so the drug companies are also seeing the same thing. Continues, the Zoloft, and prescribes a cocktail of medications for sleep. However, even after stopping the Zoloft and starting these other medications, she still has profound insomnia and distressing cardiac palpitations. Again, for me, this seems to be a sign that she had a toxic reaction initially to the Zoloft, and now it's causing some global problems.
I asked my wife for a comment because she's been through 5 pregnancies about this case, and I am ever so grateful for her because she said she hadn't heard enough about it, which I love so much. And part of it is that she trusts me to protect her from the culture wars that are necessarily fought by the man in our family. And that is a wonderful thing. I told her, don't look it up, don't look into it, because it's dark enough that I didn't even want to do this video. But I did want to respond to the therapist who's responding to this case because it deserves our scorn. She deserves to be cast out of her practice, and any industry that had enough men with enough huevos rancheros to step up would have kicked this woman out of the profession immediately. Dr. Jordan Peterson is being called into the Canadian Boards of Psychiatry and Psychology in order to have his license either revoked or go to, these re-education classes. If Dr. Peterson can be called for having right-wing-ish opinions and his license is under question, this woman's license should be revoked immediately. If we had an industry that had a brain or a set of huevos rancheros, that would be done immediately. And guys, if you have any other videos of therapists acting poorly after this fashion, I would love to see them. My profession needs about a 40% trim, and I believe that AI will probably accomplish that. However, if you see these types of opinions coming from the professionals that you're trusting and sending your children to, in many cases, it is up to us to cleave off the negative parts of my industry. And if you would like to continue to see therapists gone wild or therapists acting badly, I would love your support on this channel. Part of what I do in my attempt to build a future of faith, fatherhood, and freedom is to take the necessary steps to reform my industry, the therapy industry, and that's part of the reason I remained. I would love your support in doing that. I'll talk to you later.